so today what we're going to do is we're going to talk about buying housing, right? Now, when you consider you're about to buy a house, right, there's a whole bunch of different things that we have to consider, right? We have to consider the different kinds of houses. So, for example, you may have something that's called a detached house, okay? A linked house, a semi-detached house, a townhouse, or a condominium, okay? All of these are valid places where you can live, right? Now, the linked house, the semi-detached, or the townhouse would be found in most small towns across Ontario. Condominiums, however, are found in slightly larger communities, such as bigger towns and cities. Okay, now a condominium is just literally just an apartment with an extra fee for paying for the upkeep of the apartment, but you're also paying for the ownership of the house as well, which is what we call a mortgage. Okay, now when looking for a house out there, there are a lot of things to consider before making your choice. Okay, now we have to determine the type of housing that is best for you, right? And when we're doing that, we have to consider the price, the size, the condition, and the cost versus location. Now, in order to get all this stuff done, we also have to start thinking about the location that's suitable for you, right? So for you guys, when you're thinking about a house, you got to make sure that the area is safe, right? Either whether you're single or you have a spouse or you decide to have children, you're always looking for a safe place. You're also looking for something that's very close and convenient to various amenities in the community that you're looking for. And you also want to make sure that it's close to work versus commuting to your work, right? So you got to think about that, right? Now, the other features that you desire is the type of heating for your house, whether you got gas, electric, oil, or solar. You got to think about whether you have a central vacuum or you just have no vacuum. You have air conditioning, what kind of storage you have. You also got to think about whether the thing has a furnished basement or not. Depending on whether you have a furnished basement or not, either increases the price if it's furnished or decreases the price of your house if it's not. Now, you may also have a garage, and that also increases the price as well, right? And all of these desirables tend to increase the cost of your house. The central vacuum, the air conditioning, the extra storage, or the furnished basement or the garage, right? Now, other costs that you have to consider, we've already started thinking about that. We started talking about property cost, okay? We also have to think about if you buy a condominium, you're going to have these fees that you pay, which are called maintenance fees, on top of the payment that you make called the mortgage for your place, right? You also got to consider your heating, your water, and electricity, much like what we considered when we were dealing with apartments. You also have to consider yard maintenance. And for us, we got to start thinking about how much maintenance is required on our house. Maybe you buying a house that's a fixer-upper. You got to think about that. All right. And now the next thing that we have to continue is we have to continue to start thinking about the very short-term costs of getting a house. So the short-term costs of getting a house are the initial costs, i.e. either a down payment or any payment fee or any payments of fees that you have to pay for the upkeep of your house, maybe taxes, things like that. Any cost that you have to pay to the realtor for helping you find the house, things like that. Then you also have to think of your long-term costs for your house. So we're going to focus mostly on the long-term costs and the types of houses that we're getting. But here's the thing. For the monthly costs, we're going to use a thing called a TVM solver, otherwise known as a mortgage calculator, that will help us to determine the cost of a payment based on the amount that we're paying for it and the monthly cost over, say, 20 or 25 years. Okay? Now, for us, we also have to start considering the property taxes and the monthly bills as your long-term costs. Okay? For your assignment, you will be doing a thing where you'll be looking at different types of housing. It'll be up to you to decide what kind of housing you want to buy, whether it be a semi-detached, a condominium, a just full house, all those different things that we talked about earlier. Okay? Now, let's quickly go over the different types of houses. So, firstly, when you think of something that is called a detached home, we're literally talking about a home that doesn't have any other home or residence attached to it. So it could be a one-level house. This one is a two-level house that would be found in Waterloo. This is what we call a detached home. It's not connected to any other home. That's what we mean by a detached home. Now, the only thing is, these types of homes tend to be a little more expensive, tend to be the most expensive type of home that you can get. Now, when we talk of a semi-detached home has two residents, one on the left side of the big structure, and a separate residence on the other side of the structure. So it's kind of like two homes that are attached by one wall in the middle. That's what we call a semi-detached home. Those houses tend to be a little cheaper than these ones. Okay? And as a matter of fact, depending on where you are, the costs of these types of houses are a lot cheaper than these ones. The only issue is that instead of, when stuff needs to be done to the house, like, say, a redo of the roof or the gutters, that has to be agreed upon by both parties or both families in that house. Now, when you hear the concept of a linked house, think of a linked house as two of these detached homes kind of slapped together. And in this case, what we have is two large homes, i.e. two houses that are linked together by a structure like a garage. Okay? And that garage is split down the middle very similarly to what we had with our semi-detached home. That's what we would generally think of a linked house, right? Linked houses come in all different forms. So sometimes the linked house is set up in such a way that you have, say, two of these detached homes with one little structure in between it, between the two houses, that kind of links the two houses. That's it, right? And the last type of thing that I want you to consider is a condominium. Okay, now, for a condominium, for the purpose of these classes, I want you to think of a condo as an apartment building for which you own one little section, i.e. one part of the apartment. So if you're in a condominium, you tend to own the apartment and you pay fees to a corporation that is owned by all of the tenants of the apartment for the upkeep of the apartment. So think of yourself as a partial owner of the apartment, right? You'll still have things like your water, your heat, your hydro, your electricity bill, all that stuff still is paid by you, right? But you actually own a piece of your house. You actually own the part of the apartment. But you also have to pay for the upkeep of the apartment, and that's what we call condo fees. Okay? Now, going from top to bottom here, each one of these have their own advantages and disadvantages. You'll be exploring what those are, but you'll also be taking a look at houses that are going to be costing somewhere around $750,000. Now, I'm actually looking at places in Listowel and Waterloo and Stratford. You guys can look for apartments and houses in your own place, right? We are going to go take a look at a thing called the Realtor website, okay? and we're going to go to realtor.ca, and we're going to take a look at these different houses. So here are all the different price ranges that you're going to explore. Okay, you're going to look for houses that are somewhere between 50 to, say, let's go 300,000. Okay, then we're going to go from 305,000 to, say, 350,000, then 355,000 to, say, 600,000, and then $605,000 to whatever house that you want. Now, the cool part about looking for houses at realtor.ca is that it allows you to search for houses anywhere in Canada, right? And the best part about it is that you can tell me what type of house you're looking for. You're going to tell me what the asking price is, right? You can tell me about what the positives and negatives of these houses are for our project. Now, the best part is, a lot of times when you know what the asking price for your house is, you don't even know how much you're going to pay using your mortgage. Let's talk about how that's going to be done. So here's what you're going to do. You're going to go to mortgage.ca, and you're going to use realtor.ca, www.realtor.ca, and what you're going to do is you're going to type in various cities. Maybe you decide Listowel, maybe you decide other places in Canada where you decide to live. That's fine with me, doesn't matter. So in this case, I'm going to check Stratford, right? So let's maybe say I'm taking a look at Stratford. I can find various prices for houses in Stratford, right? And these are all the newest listings. You can sort by newest listing, the house that's been the oldest on the listings for all of Stratford. You can look at the lowest price, right? And it'll organize all your stuff from the lowest price to the most expensive price house in the area, or the highest list price, right? All of these different things can help you find how much what kind of house you're looking for, right? Now, you can also click on any of these different houses. So maybe I'm going to go and take a look at the lowest price house. If I click on this house here, right? Notice it's 215 Maple Street. It's a nice little house, and doesn't look like much, but when you get inside, you can see all these different pictures that show the different sections of the house. Looks pretty nice to me, right? Very simple house, but it's $279,000. It's located on Crystal Lake, and this is what I can do. I can take this amount of money, I can copy it, and what I can do is are you ready for it? I can look for the mortgage and how it's calculated. Now, to do that, you're going to click on the payment calculator once you've decided on your house. Now, in your house, there are certain things that you're going to pay for. So when you go and decide to buy a house, you type in how much your cost is for the house. Now, step 1, you're going to enter the price and you hit go, right? Step 2, this is how much you're going to pay if you're going to put down 5% of the total cost. What is this? I guess this is 10% of the total cost, things like that. Now, these are the different mortgage insurances down here, and then these are the prices that you would have to put down as a down payment based on the percentage that you choose to put down for your house. Now, the larger down payment on your house, the quicker your house will be paid off. Okay, now the next thing that you have to do is you have to consider the amortization period. When you hear the term amortization period, that's what we're talking about. We're actually talking about the length of time it's going to take for the homeowner to pay for the house. So sometimes you really want to pay quickly. Sometimes you really want to pay in the medium term and then long term, right? So you can go from anywhere from 10 to 20 years, because you know what, you guys are not necessarily the richest kids. You're just starting out. Imagine if you end up getting a house, how much would it cost, right? And based on this, we can go and figure out what the mortgage rate for Canada would be, just do a search. Sometimes I'll give you a percentage number, and if I put 7%, 7% goes across the board here, and this is how much I would pay if I was paying for over 10 years. Look at that, 3,197 every week. Sorry, every month. If it was 15 years, it's 2,320. And then if it's 20 years, it's this much. And if it's 25 years, it's this much I'd be paying, right? And we can use that to calculate how much we would pay for our place. Your assignment asks you for that, right? Now, if I tell you that it's 20 years, we're going to use the 20-year mortgage for our calculators. But it's always interesting to see how much you could pay at over different years. So you can use that and fiddle with this. Now, if you want, you can go and find out other living costs and initial costs for your house, like the land transfer tax, depending on the city that you're in and stuff like that. But you're just going to focus on the mortgage calculator. All right? And that's it.